Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Howard of Ford Learn to Fly. Today we're going to take a look at the CL-415. This airplane is given to us for free for pre-ordering Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. If you pre-order 2024 on Steam or at the Microsoft Store, they give you this aircraft for free that you can use in 2020. This is great. And what I'm hearing a lot of people say over the last 2 days of pre-ordering is, how do we use it? How do we fly it? And one of the things that I do on my Tuesday Twitch stream is our Tuesday lesson. We always learn a new airplane, or we learn a new technique or a new fundamental flying skill. So here today, I'm presenting to you the lesson on the Canadair CL-415. So welcome to the classroom. There's plenty of information on the CL-415, this workhorse, this water bomber, amphibious water bomber. And first of all, just the word amphibious simply means that it can be on the water. It's just one large boat, or it can be on the land. It has wheels to land, whereas some aircraft are just boats and some aircraft are just wheels. I mean, so one is land-based, one is sea-based, and this is both, of course. And they mount the engines up top. We'll look at bigger pictures than this. And mounting the engines up top keeps them away from the spray of the water, because the water level comes right up close like this. We've covered a lot of airplanes on my channel, and we've covered a lot of airplanes in my Twitch channel too. And this one is very unique, and we'll learn a little bit about it as we go along. Let me first tell you how we get a hold of it. All right, so this is actually the airplane that you'll see in all the splash posters for Flight Simulator 2024, which is coming up November 19th. I was at the preview event in Grand Canyon. There was a previous video that I did of some of that footage, and there's some more information coming also. But Flight Simulator 2024 features this airplane in one of its activities where we can actually put out fires. And there are actual fires. Now, they give us this airplane because we've pre-ordered as a gift, and it's made for Flight Simulator 2020, the one that we're using right now. But there are no fires. So we can use it at least to practice. We can do water landings, runway landings. We can pick up water and drop it and see how that all works. And we'll be fully familiar with this by the time 2024 comes around and we start doing the activities. And you go straight to the head of the class. So it'll be a lot of fun. So let's find out more about it. Here's the splash screen that they give us. Pre-order now from the Microsoft Store and get this airplane to use in 2020 immediately. I will mention to you that the Steam version, I've got something coming up here for that too, the Steam version of Flight Simulator 2024 is now available for pre-order too. All of my sim setups are with the Steam version, as I did with FSX and previous sim games before that. So that's the beauty that we're going to fly right now in 2020. So pre-order is available now, all the different versions. I go for Aviator version because it has everything, but it is the most expensive one. But being a streamer and being a content creator, I want to have all the airports. I want to have all the planes. I want to have all of it. And so we have to, because when we're flying multiplayer also, I want to be able to see all the planes too. So that's the problem we have being a content creator and a Twitch streamer. But certainly I would say the very least you should buy, and this is my recommendation technically, is the deluxe version, not the standard, right? The deluxe version gives you airplanes that others might use mods for. For instance, in 2020, the WB Sim Most Realistic 172 was built upon the deluxe version, the analog version of the 172. And so if you only had standard, you wouldn't be able to use that mod and get the Most Realistic 172 for flight training. So I would suggest you at least get deluxe. All right, you can look at each of these. I've got videos coming up again. There's plenty more out there already that talk about each of the versions and what you get for each one. But each one is additional airplanes, additional airports or sceneries. But, you know, Aviator gives you all of it. All right, any of these pre-orders will give you this airplane that we're going to talk about today for free. I like those words, for free. So here's the Steam version of it. This just happened, I guess, yesterday. Yesterday it was just released, and now it's available on Steam also, which a lot of us have been waiting for. One thing I like about Steam, I've had a number of different PCs that I've used for flight sim over the years, and you can uninstall and reinstall if you ever end up with things a mess. The one thing that it won't back up or restore is your community folder, which is where all your extra add-ons are from websites, etc. If you order everything from the marketplace, then it will be also included in your Steam install when it uninstalls and reinstalls in that official folder. We still back up the official folder for the marketplace, and we still back up the community folder from all your add-ons, and keep a copy of those somewhere because you might need them someday. Right? I also use the MSFS Linker. Here, I'll show a picture of it right here. The MSFS Linker is a very handy tool for making sure that all of your add-ons, whether it be official or community folder, all your add-ons can sit in another hard drive, a converted or an upgraded hard drive, a bigger hard drive, and then it simply puts links back into your real community folder, and it works perfectly fine. And that just saves your flight simulator from becoming a great big hog. It also keeps you from having to load everything. With MSFS Linker, you can simply say that I'm flying in North America right now. I don't need anything from across the pond. I'm flying in UK right now. I don't need anything other than the plane I'm flying and the sceneries around my area. So, you know, this will change in 2024. It'll be interesting to ring this all out because in 2024, it prefetches anything you need in the immediate vicinity, including planes. Everything's coming from the cloud. This will be great to test. We're going to do a lot of tests on this stuff. So maybe we don't need everything sitting on that hard drive. Maybe MS Linker can still keep them somewhere else and link them, but it will prefetch. We won't need as big a hard drive, right, or as much space on the hard drive. But that'll be interesting to see. Once you do pre-order, I had to ask Aerosoft to give me, how do I get this CL-415? How do I get this thing so I can go start flying it? And they said, oh, and here's the link. So keep this in mind. So I've actually expanded it up here. I had to do this link. I had to put in my email address, my order number, and then my gamer tag, and then the plane showed up in my content manager. All right. So I just want to mention that because it was a stumbling block for me. I was told you pre-order, it'll just show up. And that's why we had to give our gamer tag. So it would show up in your sim, all right, magically. It's already there in the content manager. So keep that in mind, everybody, that's, you know, the way to do it. Now, I don't know if it's because I got the limited collector's edition. I don't know if that's the reason why. So we'll see, but it comes from Aerosoft anyway. So that link to the free airplane. So you've seen this airplane on the front poster. This is the famous poster that you know, they used at the preview event. This was big, huge poster, ceiling to floor, all backlit, beautiful, gorgeous thing. Also out in the outdoor barbecue area where you do the, you know, the dinner afterwards. Great, big, huge backlit poster looking just like this. And right at the forefront is that 415. Well, we can have this thing. Now we can have this thing right away. So let's go see it. Let's go fly it, you guys. That's what we're going to do here. All right, and here's mine when I'm doing a practice water drop. I think this is my first water drop. And, you know, that's the whole idea behind it is we want to go fly it, figure out how to make all this work. And I'm going to teach you about, you know, help you understand about what are the probes and what are the water doors and what can we do with this thing. And so now I'm going to fly it right here in 2020 and you can too. And so let's get into that and find out some more. So here's our lineup, everybody. Here's our lesson topics. This is typical of my Tuesday night lessons. And you'll notice that some of my videos here on YouTube also have this same format. All right, and this format is typically we go through these steps, some preliminary stuff, a little bit of history typically, just so we know where it came from. The engines themselves, just find out a bit more detail about that. Controls and mappings, and that's important here because we're going to have to do water drops. We need to map stuff, and you probably want to do that. In the real plane, it's right on the yoke when you want to do the water drop. You've seen the movie. You've seen the movie. Have you seen the movie Always? You want to see a really good water dropping movie? The movie Always. Go see that, all right? Here's a little clip of it right here.
Hey, bud, get up.
Wow. Can you imagine that coming at you? Now, obviously, that's camera angle. Obviously, they weren't in much danger. If you look sideways at it, there could have been a mile before it lifted off. But, you know, the point was, it's a great opening, isn't it? And all through that movie, it's fascinating. If you haven't seen it, you got to go see it. And I'm not even sure we have the 415 there, but it's water dropping, right? So it's a lot of fun. All right, so introduction to the plane, the engines themselves. Now we get to the 7 steps. Now this is the core of my lessons. Learning any new airplane, it's typical for us to do these 7 steps. When I have to go to a type certification, as we call it. For instance, I first learned to fly on a 150, Cessna 150. Now, once I got my license, I moved up to a 172. It costs more per hour to rent, but still you can take friends with you and stuff. All right, so the type certification means that you are now certified to fly that type. And if I wanted to go and start flying something else, like say the Diamond DA40 or something like that, I would have to take an instructor with me and do a type certification, study the POH, get to know the thing. Matter of fact, the 7 steps that you're going to see here. So this is really what we do in real life, and I pull those into my lessons. All right, and that's what we're going to be doing here. Obviously, the hands-on demonstrations, you can skip right to those if that's all you're after. How do I get water? How do I drop water? If that's all you're after here, skip over to that section by all means. Come back later if you want to find some more information. All right. So introducing the Canadair CL-415. This is what it looks like in the sim, and believe it or not, there are no liveries. I'm just going to guess that there are more liveries when we get to 2024. We don't know, right? And so we'll just work with this. This is the standard colors, this yellow and red that you see. This is a screen snap right out of 2020 of me flying it. Matter of fact, my aviator avatar. Try saying that after a few. My aviator avatar is sitting right there in the front. Yes! And you can get that from our partner from Got Friends. Go to Got Friends and go get that. It's a free thing. That's the streamers. All right, so produced for FS2020 as a gift for everybody who does a pre-order. And it's not even available in the marketplace. You can't go get this and buy it. So it's available, well, at least not in the marketplace. I don't know if you can go to Aerosoft and buy it for 2020. But anyway, there it is, and it's free. And this is what it looks like. And you can see here some basic stats to start with. All right, depending on how we go. Cruise speed 180 knots. We'll have a look at those in more detail. All right, so let's have a look at the bit of history. I know this kind of thing is, it's like way too much text on one screen. But, I just wanted to do a one screen about this baby, all right? The Super Scooper, as they call it, all right? And it's actually called an amphibious water bomber. It's a water bomber. You're actually going to bomb the ground with water. So that's what we do. It's a lot of fun. You can see in here, it's an upgraded, so the 415, the 415 is an upgraded turboprop version of the 215. Now you can get the 215. I have it in the sim and I have flown it before, and this is why it was easy for me to transition. But the 215, probably from flightsim.to or somewhere for free, or, I don't know where I got it from. I've had it on my system for probably 3 years. And so this is the upgrade. And what they did with the 215, they actually did convert the engines to turboprops, more reliable, better at higher altitudes, great torque, all the rest of it, which we'll get into in a minute. But once they did that, they realized they better make a new name for the plane because they actually made it more aerodynamic and they made some improvements to it. And so they had to give it a different name. And even now with the 415, they've actually, de Havilland actually makes a 515 version now, modern day. So, that's why they give you a different designation. So the main things that you see here, specifically for aerial firefighting, which is what we're after, all right? Like CAL FIRE. If anyone's seen that series on TV, CAL FIRE. And then other roles such as search and rescue and utility transport. And there's room in this plane to put in cargo. There's room for a few passengers too. All right, so we'll see that when we walk into the plane and have a look inside, right? By the time its production phase had begun in 2003, it was then owned by Bombardier and produced up until 2015. Then in 2016, the CL-415 program was acquired by Viking Air. You guys know about Viking Air out in the West Coast. They do the conversions for the de Havilland Beaver to electric, things like that. And they made an updated CL-515, and then they had de Havilland Canada produce it even today. So this is still being produced as a 515. So it has, this version we have in 2020 has the entire water operations. We just don't have the fire down below. So we can just use it for practice as they do in firefighting school, like they do in the movie always. All right, this water bomber, let's go have some fun with it. We'll start by looking at a few things, and then we get into the 7 steps. The first thing we look at here is performance. And we look at the performance, we try to pull out some information here. I'm not going to read every line to you. This is a good screen to pause on or take a screen snap, and good to know some of these things. Some of the ones I want to talk about here are the scooping distance, including safe clearance height. So the scooping distance, how long it takes to fill that thing. It doesn't just open up the belly of the plane and let all that water rush in, because it would stop that plane in the water. So it has smaller probes at the bottom. I'm going to show those to you. And we lower those probes to scoop the water. Well, it's going to take a while. The probes are much smaller than the belly of the plane. And so it's going to take a run of 4,400 feet for us to finally get the tanks full. And in cases like this, we might see the land coming up at us, as you see behind here. The land might be coming up a bit too soon. So you want to have enough run for that. And you can do tests on that. And a lot of times we'll do a precautionary examination of the area. Any type of water operations, any type of float plane. We've done lots of lessons on this. In float plane flying in real life, and I've been in a lot of de Havilland beavers and twin otters in real life. And in those, I mean, as a passenger, right? I'm not certified for those, but I've been in as a passenger or as in the right seat. And so in those planes, they always do a preliminary look around the area first for submerged logs, for people in boats, for swimmers, whatever, before they come back in and do whatever they're going to do, whether it be a landing, whether it be scooping water. All right, we want to make sure that that is free of anything that we could hit, right? Of course, in real life, right? So scooping distance, that's important. Rate of climb is important once we're full. When we're full, you guys, we got a whole lot of weighting. I'm going to go look at weights next. How much does the 415 weigh with full water tanks and full fuel? Oh my gosh, 2 huge liquids that are on the plane. All right, and so fuel consumption on the average, gallons per hour, 222 US gallons per hour. What? On average, there's a lot of fuel in there. So, all right, typical drop speed. And this is important, this stuff here, because we're going to be doing this. Come in close. We're going to be coming in about 100 feet to 150 feet above the fire, or even higher if it's a really hot fire, and we're going to drop. If you drop too high, it will actually dissipate into the air, right? And so we want to be able to do it the way they designed it. Firefighting circuit speed. So circuit speed in the circuit of the firefighting. And we'll still treat it like an airport, you guys. Here's the hot area. We've been told by the ground crew, here's where we're going to hit. We can't simulate that today, but we're going to just pick an area of forest and just drop on it. You can also take a look at my, if you look at my resort, I have the scenery from my resort in Alaska, and in there we have spots on the runway. You could use those. I know throwing water on the runway is not good for when you have to land afterwards, but still you can use that for practicing and try and hit between this dot and that dot. And maybe during demonstration, I can go there, go to the resort and show you that. And there'll be a link in the description down below. There'll be a link for my resort if you want to go get it, right? And so, you know, it just gives you the dots, or you could go to Oshkosh and use the dots there. All right, so landing distance. Okay, so these are good things to know. We'll just pick the biggest distance we can find, and that way we can relax about it. We don't have to worry about pulling up at the last minute. So the weights are very important because this is how much it weighs as you add more. Maximum takeoff weight on the land, maximum pre-scooping weight. So before you scoop, this is how much you'd have in your wings for fuel or freight or whatever you have. Typically, if you're scooping, you don't usually have freight. There's usually just you and a co-pilot. Could be a student on board, maybe, right? So maximum disposable payload, non-disposable payload, which is the freight section in the back, maximum fuel load, right? And so there we see after scooping weight, we jump from 36,200 pounds to 47,000 pounds. That's how much your after scooping weight is. All right. So it's going to be interesting, all right, when we see this. Here's our 3 view. I only put that there for reference so you can get an idea from top, front, and side, what it looks like. Your typical single hull amphibious plane where you get up on the step. Now, it's the same theory behind when you have 2 floats, like the de Havilland Beaver, or any number of planes that have 2 floats, and you sit really high, right? When they also have this kind of shape at the bottom, they have a step. And what we do is we get up on the step, and that reduces the friction on the water, and then we lift off. And it's your typical lift off. A fast taxi could be on this step too, because there's less friction. But once you're settled down and even doing a slow taxi, you're submerged all the way down into the water, and there's lots of resistance there, of course, right? It's nice to see that side view so that you know what's happening. There's the great big spinners right there on the turboprop engines, and you notice behind there are two surfaces here. And you notice they are in part of the slipstream. Same with up here. You can see this top view looking back to these two surfaces right here. And what do those help us with? Well, we still have a rudder, we still have trims and all the rest of it. So we'll see how that goes as we go along. I'm keeping the pace pretty high here, you guys. You can slow it down and pause where you need to. I'm also giving credit where credit is due. Some things I had to find on Wikipedia. I couldn't find them anywhere else. I find this is a great source for engines. I do have my own source for engines in all of the museums I've been to. I've taken my own pictures. This one is a better picture than I have of this engine. And this is a very famous engine. I've used this same picture when we're talking about the de Havilland Beaver. When we're talking about the Dash 8. I mean, we haven't got a Dash 8 in 2020 yet, which is supposed to be coming. But the Dash 8 uses the same thing. And these, the Dash 8 airplane, also made by de Havilland, this is all over the world as a commuter airplane. I have literally done hundreds of flights as a passenger in a Dash 8, doing business back and forth between Toronto and Ottawa with Porter Airlines. These are all over the world. So, this is a very tried and true turboprop engine. We got 2,261 horsepower for this version, the 123AF turboprop. And we've got two of these engines. Of course, this thing is a workhorse, and it has to have this kind of torque and power because we're picking water up off the lake and lifting off with all that weight. This thing needs to be a workhorse, all right? And you're seeing up here, there's the transmission, there's the actual spinner. There's where the propeller would be attached right up front here. And this is the main part of the actual turboprop engine. And we have done lessons just on turboprops where you understand it completely. I've had an animation of the turbines moving and all the rest of it, right? We still need to know some of the theory. In real life, you need to know all of the theory because you got to manage these engines and make them work properly. Here in the sim, we can just advance the throttles and we're good, all right? But there are a couple of considerations we have to do if you'd like to do this in more realism, which is what I like to do. All right, so other, the ATR 42, we also have familiar with that. I mean, these are some familiar names that you see here. Greater than 10,000 have been built. And I think these stats, greater than 10,000, I think it was 2014 I got those stats. And here we are in 2024. So I would say it's probably greater than 15,000 built. Yeah, who knows, right? I'd have to find a newer stat. But, that's a lot of engines being built. They're going to make sure this thing is a workhorse and that it works well. All right, so let's go take a look more in the sim, and then let's get to those 7 steps, all right? So I want to talk about a little more detail here because the first thing you should always be looking at is the weight and balance. And this is going to change as we scoop water. It's going to change as we use fuel. As we use fuel, we'll get lighter. As we scoop water, we'll get heavier. So, these things will change. But you can set these ahead of time, and you can also use this like a spreadsheet. You can do what if. What if I load this thing down 100% fuel and 100% air, and let's just load it right down. And you can play with this and you can watch the center of gravity move outside of its limits. And you can even fly the plane outside of its limits just to see how that works. I actually have a lesson coming up on my Twitch channel on a Tuesday night. I'm not sure if it's middle of October or so, but I'll be doing a Twitch channel session on weight and balance only. It's going to be dry, but it's going to be interesting for those who really care. Most of us would not even go to this screen. We would just go fly and just whatever the defaults are. The defaults are 50%. I threw 100 pounds into the water tanks. Obviously, they hold thousands of pounds, but I threw 100 pounds in here on this screen just to see what would happen. And you're always looking at this and you're making sure there's no red over here. These would all come up red if this was over the limits or is forward or aft of the limits. All right, so let's go take a look now at control options. Now, the interesting part about this, I'm using my Caribou mapping on my Bravo throttle quadrant, and it does use the two black throttles, and it also uses the 2 blue levers, all right, in this turboprop. And so you can see in here, I'm just showing the propeller levers only. The throttle one, I'm just using the 2 black levers for throttle. But here, this is important here in the propeller because I'm going to be using reverse prop, hold propeller reverse thrust. All right. And what this is when you pull your, when you pull these propeller levers to the reverse all the way back, there's an indent where you can pull it back even further back from 0, and that'll take you into reverse. And this is actually a handy thing. Most people aren't using this thing. Even on the Caribou, when we were showing that and learning about that, that thing can go backwards to back up as far as it needs to go on a short field or a rough field. And we want to get going and up in the air as soon as possible. That's why you would use reverse. We don't have, in these remote airfields and these dirt strips and grass strips, we don't have a mule we can call up and push us back. So, and so we want to be able to push back and then take off, right? And that's a really handy thing. And you can also use it, of course, for aerodynamic braking when you land. All right, you put it into reverse propeller. It's not reverse thrust as you see. Well, it is reverse thrust, but it's not reversed jet engine thrust like you see on the bigger airliners, where they actually open up parts of the engine and do the reverse thrust, or they even open up and push that thrust forward, you know, like all of that. This is just really, it's just changing the pitch of the blade. All right, there's coarse and there's fine pitch, and then there's reverse pitch, where it actually can give you that aerodynamic braking, which is beautiful. All right, so here are the 7 steps. This is typical, you guys, you've seen me do this before. Here's actually the 415 is sitting here at my resort on the ramp. And it's just going to, I'm just going to taxi into the water and take off on the water. There's an actual water landing strip here at the resort. And so I'll leave a link down below on how you can go get the resort. All right, so obtain the pilot's operating handbook is the first thing. This has got to be the hardest thing I had to do. As of today, I still have not got a manual with this plane. I got the plane. It showed up in my content manager. I go fly it. I go look on my official folder where it lives. There's no documentation. I ask Aerosoft if there's any documentation I can have. I've heard nothing. So this is 3 days after I've had it. And I still haven't heard from them, or I still haven't got any manual. And I'm sure, you know, this is how it works. I'll publish this video onto YouTube, and next thing you know, they'll say, here's the manual, by the way. So I'm doing all of this without the documentation that comes with it. So I have to dig in and find my own and rely on my own experiences, all right? And experiment a lot. All right, that's what you're getting right here. First look, first hand, let's do it. All right, and we'll go figure out how to do the water drop and all that. That's one thing that a lot of you are tuned in for. Let's go see the water operations. Step number 5. All right, but, you know, go take a look at my demo afterwards too. I'll do some demos throughout this lesson, all right, just to try and break the monotony of it all. We'll focus on water operations, landing, filling, dropping, and return to base, all right? We're going to do all of that. Okay, and it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, so you can see in here, learn the vital speeds. We need to know what speeds. We've learned a couple already. Learn engine handling. And simple enough for a lot of us. We'll just advance the throttles and we'll retard the throttles, and now you've learned that you can change the propeller pitch and you can even go reverse prop. And that's starting to get into more than a lot of people do already. But we need to learn a little more about engine handling. What do you look at? When you do your downwind check, you know, primary master switches are on the way you want them set. Circuit breakers are all in. You know, magnetos are on both. Engine pressure and temperature in the green. Fuel quantity, right? And you're on both, or you're on left or right. So, you know, you do these normal downwind checks or cruise checks, and we do them automatically now because you do them thousands of times. We do the same thing here. We got to, before we go in to pick up that water, we're just doing a quick engine check. Is everything in the green? And that might be the simple thing. Just like when our gear is down, do we have 3 in the green? When our engine is operating properly, we should see needles in the green. And that's a quick check. We want to be able to do that quickly because we got to look out the window. This is VFR stuff, you guys. We're doing VFR, pick up water and go drop it on a forest fire, all visual out the window. We can't be sitting there inside programming FMS and doing all kinds of things in the cockpit because we got to pay attention outside. All right, so make a checklist. Well, there's the in-game checklist. There's also a checklist I found from an old X-Plane document from back in the day. So we do whatever it takes, whatever we can find. Water operations, the interesting part that a lot of people want to know. Cockpit orientation. So I want to talk in there. I just typically talk about the control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, the control views on your keyboard. So even if you're in Xbox, you can use a keyboard and a mouse. It makes your sim experience so much more richer. Is that a good way to say it? And so on the keyboard, you can do control 1, control 2, control 3, and it quickly gets you those views. Now I have a Tobii eye tracker. I can use that all the time when I fly. I can look where I need to look But sometimes in a video, it's too drastic and makes some people, they get a little bit dizzy watching me because all of a sudden I'm over here and now I'm back over here. And it can, so I'm going to use that sparingly, and I'll just use the views to go to those views. If I want to go to overhead, I'm not going to be doing this. I'm just going to do Control 3 or Control 4 gets me overhead, right? When I got to do things up there. And if you're not really interested in cold and dark start, you'll see I've got table of contents. Jump over to the part where I'm actually going in to get some water. I mean, do the things you want to do out of this. Get what you need out of this video, you guys, and come back and fill in the gaps later if you wish, all right? And we'll take it for a spin once we know all of that, and we'll get comfortable with this airplane. All right, the first one is obtain the Pilot's Operating Handbook, the POH. Pilot's Operating Handbook stands for POH. You'll hear certified pilots talk about the POH. This is the first thing we study after ground school, or even during ground school, but this is the first thing we study sometimes before we even get in the airplane. Because this has everything in there that the manufacturer wants us to know as pilots. We have to know we are in command of this airplane. We got to know everything about it. And so we have to study this thing. Here in the sim, you don't have to. Here in the sim, you could get it and go find one part you need and you're good. All right. And that's fine. We get out of this hobby that we can. But some of you are pilots and you do want to practice. And so you do grab the POH, and you might be taking real lessons during the day, let's say in a 172, and you might have the POH for the 172. In the evenings, you're looking through it and you're studying it and you're earmarking it and you're highlighting it. All right. And this is what we do. And you'll see this in movies like Top Gun. They're all sitting there with binders. What's with all the paper? At one point they take the, the binder and throw it in the garbage for an effective teaching strategy. All this stuff, the regulations, the stuff we're supposed to do in the garbage. And here's what we're going to do. Because the audience already knows all that stuff. They've studied those books inside out. They know that stuff, and they're going to take them further. Here, what we need to do is go into the POH and find stuff that we can't find anywhere else. What is the proper speed to pick up water? What's our maximum fuel we can take when we're picking up water? So there's things we might need to know, and the POH would find those answers because it's made by the manufacturer. All POHs are broke up into divisions. Typically, general is the first one. Typically, normal operations isn't till chapter 4. Chapter 4, you can almost go to the middle of your POH if you had a physical one in your hands, and there's chapter 4, normal operations, right? Chapter 3 is always emergency operations. That's important. So they do that first before they get to normal. So the POHs are all standard like that if they've been following the proper standard rules. And these are made by the manufacturer, and they give you all the details, more details than most of us need in the sim. All right. Now, I also want to mention to you, now you're going to have to find your own POH, you guys. This one here is from an X-Plane, an old document I had. So I'll give you the WaterBomber section only. It's not that long. It's only a few pages. Typically, a POH is 40, 50, 60 pages, depends on the airplane. But I can't give you this one because I don't know where I got it from, but I can show it to you. This one here, I can give to you everything you need to know about the Canadair CL-415 made by Win Air. Now, Win Air is a real, real company for real aircraft. These are real photos too. So, Amphibious Water Bomber. This is a great publication. It's a web page. And I encourage you to go get this, and I can actually show that to you. I probably have it right here in front of my face somewhere. And I can actually show you what that looks like. I did have it right here in front of me, but it's probably over somewhere else now. All right, I gotta find it. Right here. All right, let's start that part again. So I can show this to you. Let's just give an idea what this is. So using that URL that you see on the left there, let's just pull this into view here. And you can see once you're here, you can just scroll through it and read about it. And there's some great stuff in here. The role, the manufacturer, first flight, current status. These are all real photos. You guys are gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Specifications. Look at this, real pictures. Is that a real picture? Yeah, that's a real picture. That's a real fire going on. And, stall speed, range. This is great, this performance section. I could have easily copied this for my presentation, but, you've got it here available to you to have a look at this. We're not going to read it all right now. It's boring, boring, boring for those who aren't worried about the details. But look at this thing. And then here's all the references to make this happen. Look at them all. And you could follow any one of these if you wish. All right. They do have Wikipedia contributions in here too, like a lot of us do. Right. So this is great. All right. And down here, we got all the vital statistics. I could have copied these out too. I'm careful not to copy. right? Especially when we do videos like this, I get permission before I do. But I wanted to show that to you live because this is something you should probably go and get, all right? And that's a great resource right there. There's the URL. I'll make sure I have a link for that in the description below. Beautiful. All right, the important speeds. And I'm going to apologize right away on, step number 2, important speeds. I'm going to apologize right away because this is blurry and I couldn't clean it up anymore. I actually lightened it. This is a screenshot right out of the panel on the panel right in the plane in the sim. And this is where you get this. It's a placard, they call it. It's placarded on the panel. Great reference. I love it when they placard things because you don't have to go looking in a manual if you forget a certain speed. And there it is right there in front of us, right on the panel inside the plane. Nice. This is what the airspeed indicator looks like. Again, I had to lighten it up here so you can see it well. It was kind of dark no matter what I did with the lighting. It was kind of gray, dark. So after a while, you just get to know, just like in your car, you'll get to know where is each of these speeds. The slowest speed I can see in here, the minimum control in air is 84. All right, so 50, 60, 70, 84. 84. Anything less than that, you should be careful. Look out. You don't even see. Do they have stall speed on here? I don't think I see it. Maximum operating, maneuvering, operating, minimum control, water door. So they don't. And that's where you have to go to the POH, or in this case, we go into here where they've got some performance specifications. Down here, maybe. Performance. Stall speed, 78 or... they got it in miles per hour. Wow. Or kilometers per hour. Oh, 68 knots. There we go. Look at this. Way to go. They've got it in all 3. That's probably hard for you to read. We can see it right here. Stall speed, 68 knots. Great resource. All right. So let's just pull that back again. 68 knots. There's 50, 60, 70. Stall speed, 68. Right here. So you can just glance at the airspeed indicator and know that if this thing is in the 3 o'clock position, if this thing is straight across on this quarter, you are close to stalling. And what that means is not the engine stall, you guys, like we do in conventional cars. This means the airplane stalls. It's actually a wing stall. Your wing stops producing enough lift to overcome the weight of the plane, and you will start to fall. All right. And in a stall, sometimes one wing will fall before the other. And if you're close to the ground, it's going to hurt. All right, so we never want to stall the plane. It's number 1 rule in every airplane. Never stall the plane unless, I guess you can't say never, unless you're a student and you're learning to manage stall training, where we'll go up to 4,000 to 6,000 feet. We'll intentionally stall it and see what it feels like and learn stall recovery. Okay, but you should never be doing it after that. It's only so you'll know how to do it if it happens accidentally, or you'll know how to do it if you inadvertently happen to get in there. So that's what we look at. We look at this and say nothing lower than this while we're flying ever. Let's keep it up around here and look at all this extra space we got. You've noticed that we were talking about 107 at some point. When we were picking up water, 107, and it was somewhere around here. That's how slow you'll get to pick up water. And that gives you enough forward speed to pick up water without stalling or without stopping, right, on the lake. Probe extend water, 90. So that's the lowest we'll get here, right here, when we extend the probe. All right, but keep in mind, we're picking up water at 107. So we're speeding up as we're on the lake to make sure that resistance of actually being against the water. So with some of those speeds in mind, we want to move on over here to engine handling now. Now, the engine handling gives us these great displays that we see here in the 415. The main idea is to keep things in the green. Here we see our throttles are at idle. As we increase the throttles, that number will increase, and we'll see it goes up to this maximum little red line here. If for some reason our torque is up here, something's wrong. If anything is up here, something's wrong. Now, I've actually gone in and just give you a bit of an idea without going into the whole lesson on turboprops or turbines. Without going into all that information, mainly we're looking at this in the sim to see what our actual speed is. But, this is airspeed is everything on the previous page. Airspeed is everything, but we'll manage it with this and with attitude of the plane, all right? But you'll also notice there are some other things to worry about. And in the real plane, you got to know this stuff inside out. You will understand this inside out. What is an inter-turbine temperature? What is the propeller RPM? Well, that one most of us can guess at, right? Torque is your main engine power indicator. This is your torque indicator, all right? And then there's more information here on turbines. This is great from the airplaneacademy.com. And again, I'll make another link for that in the description because it's hard to pull it out of the video, all right? But you can learn more about turboprops, of course, right? And that's turboprop engines, and they've got a graphic in there too, and they explain things for us. And that's where you can find a lot of this information. There's one other gauge to the right of this one that you'd want to see. Actually, there's two more gauges, but the one to the right is this one here where it shows you engine oil. This is the one you glance at during your downwind checks or during your cruise checks when you level cruise. You climb to a certain altitude and then you're on level cruise. You do a quick check of all your stuff. And one of the things you check is engine pressure and temperature in the green is what we say. That's the expression we use. Yep, it's in the green here. And yep, it's in the green here. Now, engine oil pressure should be in the green within 30 seconds of starting an engine. That's the general rule, all right, in all engines. So it might be a little different from the POH here, but that's the general rule. You're looking at your engine oil pressure. The temperature will rise as the engine is running and as it warms up. So this will be slower to rise, but the actual engine oil pressure has got to be there or close to the green when you first start, all right? And as it climbs into the green, you're good. And if it's not, you're supposed to shut it down in POH procedures, right? You notice in here too, NH is high pressure compressor, RPM, and its turbine. When you look at the parts of a turbine engine, whether it be a turboprop or whether it be a jet engine, when you look at the different compressor stages, turbine, etc., and how it all works, you learn that these are important statistics to know. Here, I'm not going to teach that. We're going to focus on water operations, right? So, and then you can see up here, you know, main rule, keep it all in the green. Simple as that, all right? Now, fuel and hydraulics monitor. This is great to know. Fuel remaining, I'm getting pretty low. No, actually, I got half tanks. Okay, this is our bingo. All right, you're not supposed to use, you know, unusable fuel. You're not supposed to use right down to the last drop because you can't necessarily pull that out of the wing tanks when you're in different attitudes. So, you know, and it could also have contaminants in it too. So, you know, there's some unusable fuel in all of us, all the planes that we use. Not in all of us, in all the planes that we use. All right, so enough of that. Checklist is step number 4. Now, there's the built-in checklist. They're usually simpler. Some people say, oh, the dumbed-down checklist. Well, there's a lot of simulator pilots who don't want to go into a checklist for an hour and a half. All right. Oh, where's this? I got to go find it. And okay, there it is, and click it. Now, where's that? I got to go find it and click it. You know, a lot of people won't do all that. So here it gives us the simple things, all right, that we need to do. And the POH is going to be more detailed for those of us who want more realism, all right? And so by all means, use the built-in checklist. This is all I had to start with until I found a POH and I found more checklists. And so, again, without documentation from the developer of the plane, you know, I looked on their website. Maybe someone can point it out to me in their comments. Where is the documentation for this plane? Love to have it. So this is what I've done without the documentation, right? So water operations, we're in the water operations, everybody. This is the section some of you will just jump to. I don't care what else Howard has to say, but I want to know how to do this. So I've zoomed in here so you can read what it says right on the yoke. Look at that. Here's our trims. Our trims. Now you notice there's 2 of them for elevator trim. And so that tells us that there's actually 2 trims. Why would they have them as separate trims? So anyway, the point is nose down, nose up, just like you would with a trim wheel, like a 172 trim wheel that you actually slide with your hand up and down. Interesting part, it says nose down when you go up. Think of it as the wheel. All right, you want that nose to go down, you actually turn the wheel like that. You want the nose to go up, you push the face of the wheel down. Interesting, isn't it? Don't think about it in those terms, but that's why it is that way. I've had people ask me that. I was like, nose down, you push it up. Yep. Think of the nose of the plane. So you're at the face of the wheel. So anyway, it's interesting, isn't it? So the water drop operation, you can see here, here's the magical button right here. On some planes, it's a big red button. We actually have a red button on our yoke. Use that. I think that's normally used for autopilot. And you can certainly still use autopilot in this plane, but you could use the red button on your alpha for water operations. When you're at the right spot now. We got to time that, right? Now this one here is an interesting one too. I've got a description up here, but this switch right here that you see, this is your VHF FM switch. And this is for transmitting, right? Which one are you going to transmit on when you're talking? Now VHF is for the normal ATC operations. It'll be the air boss. if it's in a remote area, or the airport tower, if you're near a tower. And that's your typical VHF radio, and whatever you tune it to. There's a radio console in the middle console. You can tune all your frequencies. The one over here, you slide the switch over here to FM, and FM simply means it's FM radio. It simply means walkie-talkies. I'm serious, you guys. When you're in the plane, you're going to be talking to the firefighters on the ground and the lead firefighter on the ground, whatever that person's name is. Also could be the fire boss, and that person will tell you where exactly, probably even coordinates, GPS coordinates, or if you know the area, northwest corner of the something or other forest, right? That's where, we'll see the fire, but if there's fire everywhere, they want us to drop in a specific area. Now, firefighters have to be minimum 200 feet away from the drop zone. Well, they're not going to be in the drop zone because there's fire there, so they're going to be away from it, but there's still a minimum, because when you drop this stuff, that's a big flood that could knock people over. When you drop this stuff using the fire retardant, the orange stuff that you see, that stuff isn't good to get on firefighters. They can survive it. They got the gear, but that certainly wouldn't be fun either. But, apart from those details, we're just going to go out to a piece of forest and drop it and see what it looks like, right? So we're going to have some fun in the sim. We don't have people on the ground, but that's what that switch is typically used for. And this is the water drop. After you've already collected it and you're heading over to the fire, this is how you drop it right here, right on the yoke. No matter what attitude you're in at the moment, boom. And on my alpha yoke, it's my right switch, the big red one, right? You can do that too. I think in the demonstration, I'll just show you, I'll just reach down and click it, and it'll hold itself in, all right? So I'm just going to show you that because you won't be able to see me do it in my studio here. All right, so that's the idea. All right, water operations. This is actually a photo I took of me doing my first water drop. Might be a bit too high, but some of this stuff might evaporate before it gets down to the ground. So you want to get, now the interesting part is, I'm not a firefighter expert, you guys, but you see the movies and you learn from talking to firefighters. You want to get low enough to get that water where you want it. The lower you are, the more accurate you can be, and less water will evaporate. But, there's a lot of hot air here when there's a forest fire. But the second rule, though, is that you don't get so low that the airplane heats up and the wings melt. There are videos like that, you guys. It's horrible. The wings fold up and the plane just goes in for a nosedive. Obviously, people are not going to survive that, especially when they're over a forest fire. So, you want to be high enough, recommended height above the fire, and minimum they have, or higher, right? And of course, the higher you go, then, So that's what we want to practice. And so we're going to practice that in the safety of the sim and without a fire below us. When you get to Flight Simulator 2024, now take it over an actual fire, and let's see if the aerodynamics mimic the heat of that forest fire. Let's see if you can actually do damage to the airplane. And these are the things I want to experiment with once we get to 2024. All right, so let's go check it out. So water operations, here it is. In your main console where you have all of your levers, these are the blue levers on my Bravo quadrant, throttle quadrant, but they're also blue levers in conventional airplanes. Your conditioning levers or your propeller lever are typically blue. Not the red ones, which are typically your mixture. This is your propeller. And what this does is change the pitch of the propeller. All right, and you'll notice that I'm in the fuel off position. This is how you actually shut the engines off when you're done. When you're on the ground and you've taxied over and you're finished, you're going to shut down. You take it right down to the fuel off position. So you'll notice in the checklist here, it's saying right here, it's saying prop control unfeather, right? Prop control unfeather. So don't have it in the feather because you're actually moving. You cannot have it in the feather if you want to fly and stay at that altitude, all right? So you're going to bring this up. It says here start and feather, okay? Start and feather is right here. So that's the least amount of resistance on the propellers when you start the engines. All right, so keep that in mind. Here's the unfeather area. All right, so we're in the minimum prop area is what we are. We're in this area here while we're actually doing the water scooping. All right, that gives you a course. All the way up here is fine, down here is coarse, and then in here is, of course, the coarse area. So we're in the unfeather area. The flap lever is 15 degrees. So if we could see that on, this is a real picture, you guys. If we could see that, the flaps are down the first notch, which is 15 degrees. And that's just to help us with lift while we're on the ground. It certainly, more importantly, it helps us come in a bit slower and more controlled, but it also helps us when we lift off. It gives us extra lift without too much drag. That's the idea behind it. Just like Airliners will do some form of flaps, but not full flaps. Full flaps are for landing, right? Give you lots of resistance, lots of drag. Probe up down switch in the down position. I'm going to show you what the probes look like, because in the down position, they can scoop water. Here we're going to go scooping, all right? And so now we've got our propeller levers up here, probably right around this line. And now we're taking this switch and we're pushing it down. And what I found with this plane, which I thought was kind of strange, you'll hover on it till you see an up arrow. You'll see this in my demo. When you see the up arrow and click it, it'll push the switch down. The up arrow pushes it down. Anyway, that's kind of strange. Maybe they'll fix that in an update, right? And probes down now simply means that it will be able to scoop water, all right? And so here, this actually says auto or manual probes retract. This switch actually, if you hover on it in the sim, it says master switch for the probes. So we put that up, all right? And then here, we're just going to make sure the probes are in the down position, all right? After an overflight at 1,000 feet to check if the water surface is free from floating obstacles, this is what we do, all right? This is called a precautionary. Matter of fact, a lot of us will do a precautionary at 500 feet. I mean, in real planes, in a 172, in practice, we do a precautionary landing. We'll go at 500 feet circuit and look at the landing area to see if it's free of debris or whatever. Amphibious pilots do this, water pilots do this to check for floating logs, people, etc. So we would do it as close to the surface as possible without landing on the surface, right? Carry out normal touchdown at 75 to 80 knots, keeping a 5-degree positive pitch, right? 5-degree positive pitch. And so we're keeping the nose out of the water. We're touching down at this nice gentle speed, which is pretty much a landing speed for anything. And then we're going to increase the power because we're scooping up water and we're getting heavier, and we've got this resistance from the probes. All right, and then when the water level reaches the bug levels, we'll see these. I'm going to show it to you. It's going to have green indicators on left and right tanks. Then we're going to bring the probes up, right, with the same switch. You can see there's the up position, all right? And then power levers, maximum continuous, and carry out a normal takeoff. Now we're pulling off the water in a normal water takeoff, but now we got full fuel. I was going to say full fuel. We've got full water tanks. Look out, we got a lot of weight in there. Was it 10,000 pounds difference? Anyway, we got a lot, so we're going to have to pull out of there. Now, when we head over toward the area to bomb, here we go. And this is the part a lot of you just want, this is all you want in this lesson, right? So water bombing, it says amber strobe light is on. I haven't seen it yet, but anyway, I know I'm ready to go. My ignition left and right switches as required. They're already on. I mean, as required, like what? Don't you hate the as required? What does that mean when you're first learning this thing, right? So I would leave the first two things alone. Prop control is still in the unfeather. So prop control is still around here. We did that to scoop. You might put prop control full to do takeoff in case you have to abort and do a go around, or in case you have to abort and do something. Bring it back to here, to the unfeather minimum. Flap lever at 15 degrees. You might have pulled flaps up during normal cruise to get to the fire. Now bring them back down to 15 degrees. Conditional prop levers to max. Okay, so first they're saying make sure prop control is in the unfeather. Now they're saying conditional prop levers to max, all the way up to max. All right, and in max, again, is for when you have to pull out after your drop, all right? Now the airspeed, we're saying right here, maximum 129, minimum 101. Drop water switch, press it. All right, so those are your range of speeds that you can use for the water drop as you're flying over it. The faster you go, the more accurate you have to be. All right, but you can certainly cover a lot more ground as the water's leaving. The water's not pumped out. The water is just a bunch of flaps at the bottom. I'll show that to you. And it's going to just gravity feed all that water out of all those openings in the bottom of the belly, all right, like you're seeing here. So we're going to see that in action. So this is exciting, you guys, to be able to do this and go back and get more water and go back and do another drop, go back and get more water. In real life, the typical cycle for this is about 4 hours, and they call it a fuel cycle. You'll go back to base or go back to wherever you get your fuel and land and take a break. So they're in 4-hour shifts, right? You'll just continuously do this for 4 hours, typically. All right, I want to show you water operations because I talked about the probes, I talked about the water levels. Here we're ready to go. The ready lights, these are our water tanks right here. The probes are already down. I can see the down indicator. These are annunciator panel stuff. And you'll also see open happen when we're doing the drop, when we hit that water switch. All right. You can also see here, this switch here is usable, salvo, manual, pair, and then auto. These are the doors switch. Now I've played with this switch and it does tell us what happens here, but I've only seen all the doors open, which are like 4 on each side, I think it is. All the doors open and all the doors closed. So I think what it would normally do is open some of the doors and let you go longer in a longer line. All right, so it just depends. All right, so I'm not sure if this, I mean, it works and it changes this screen and tells you what's going to happen, but I'm not sure it does anything on the outside. This one is in up, right? And you'll still want to use this switch. This is your armed switch. Water drop control, you want to arm it. Remember, you might not want to arm it until you're near the fire or closing in on the fire, because what if you accidentally hit that on the yoke? Maybe if you had a turbulence or a bump or something and you accidentally hit your water switch, you could actually flood people down below or cars or anything and waste your water, right? Or even if you had the retardant liquid, that stuff's expensive, right? And you're going to just accidentally drop it somewhere and it's not going to be pretty. So I would say leave it on standby. All right, and put it on armed as you're heading in. There's the fire up ahead, armed and ready. That's what I say. Armed with the switch up, I'm ready to hit the switch. And as I fly over, boom, hit the switch. All right, this is going to be fun. Let me show you another picture here. I've already pointed out these 2 switches, so maybe I shouldn't be showing you here. But what I've done here is to show you 3 things, actually. First, the auto switch, make sure it's in the auto position. Your probes will be down to scoop, but now they're going to be up while you're going in to do the actual drop. When the scoops are down, here's what they look like. See these little 90-degree curves here? And it's an opening right here. I'll show you that live when I go take a look at this thing. I'll extend them and then I'll retract them. These are your 2 scoops. That's it. They're called probes. They should call them scoops. That's what they are. And these will scoop the water in while you're traveling along the water, doing your pickup of the water. They go in here. All right. And so it's going to take a while. Look how small they are compared to the big tank. You're actually seeing the doors of the water drop right here. There's one of the doors, second door. On the other side, you'll see some more too. When you open that water drop switch, it opens these doors. I'm going to show you a picture of that. We also have the emergency water drop, even if it's not activated, if it's not ready to go, and if your switch doesn't work, you can still reach down and manually open the doors. There's one on each side. Co-pilot or pilot can do this and open the doors when you feel like it. So you might not mess around with switches and all. You might just say, I'll just do the emergency water drop every time I want to drop. And that requires you to reach down. The pilot reaches down in the left seat and pulls that, or the co-pilot reaches down with his left hand and pulls it. That's what you're seeing right here is the left-hand one. All right, so the last thing I want to show you here is cockpit orientation. We'll get right to demonstration, you guys. So thanks for hanging in there with me. Interesting stuff, isn't it? Let's learn this baby and let's go fly it. And by the time Flight Simulator 2024 comes around, you'll be a pro because you have done hundreds of water drops, right? So get to know where everything is. Now, typically in cockpit orientation, you want to ask these questions of yourself, depending on the plane or the aircraft that you're flying. You also want to look at the views. What are the fastest views to get to where I want to be? I want to look in the overhead panel. Which view is that real quick? Now, you can also use, if you have Flow Pro, you can also use specialized views in there too. So, you can play with that all you want, but let's learn where the normal things are. Is there a fuel tank selector switch? Most airplanes have them. Where's the torque in the engine gauges? We saw them close up. Where are they in the plane? They got to be visible from both pilot and co-pilot. They're typically central, all right? Where's the torque in the engine gauge? Oh, yeah. So what are the fuel pump, or where are the fuel pump switches? Do we have fuel pump switches? Typically, most planes do, right? They have a electrical fuel pump. Once the engines are running, they typically have an engine fuel pump, but we have the electrical fuel pumps running typically during takeoff and landings so that we don't have an interruption in fuel from the engine. But if you have an engine quit and now you don't have a fuel pump running, right? So, I mean, that's why you have electrical backups like that. Where are the water operations switches? And we've learned that already. Where are the circuit breakers? They're actually behind us. We don't have to touch those, right? In a lot of planes, they are behind. All right, let's go look. Here's the normal view. This is what we're going to look like. One thing I like here, and I haven't got, there's so much detail here already. We've gone deeper than most first looks or most orientation videos. But I do want to mention, there's other gauges in here that are great, you know, and we can see in here, if we look closer, we've got a gauge here. All right, we've also got this. This is an AOA gauge. These are great. They're actually retrofitting even 172s now. Little tiny trainer 172 planes. They're retrofitting them with a vertical AOA indicator because these things save lives. When we're on the water scooping, this thing should be in the white area. Just think white water, right? And the green area is good. Anything up here, you're probably going to stall or fall out of the sky or whatever. So, you know, this is a great indicator if you're going to do nothing else with your instruments. Here's our airspeed indicator right here. We need that for all phases of operation. Here's our artificial horizon. Excellent. Here's our altimeter. So, you know, right here, we're seeing everything we need. The only thing we don't see here is our vertical airspeed. And typically we can manage that if we're confident enough in flying. We'll know if our vertical airspeed is too drastic, but we can also glance down if we need to. All right. There's our water operations that are showing you right central to both pilots, right ready to go. So this is a normal view for going in to do a water drop. We'd see the forced fire up ahead. We'd be getting ready to drop, and in we go. So that's back to reset normal view. Now let's go the main console. Now I had to zoom out and center this with my cursor keys just to show you the panel. All right, obviously it's a duplicate panel on the right as the left. Either pilot could be doing this. We do have autopilot. We do have comms down here. You can't quite see them, but there's the start of them at the bottom here. And you notice that there's our engine instruments right there. Our hydraulics and fuel are right here. And our water operations are right here. Our 6-pack is here. And away we go. This is control 1. Now what I'm doing now is just using the control key. I'm holding it and pressing 1. In the next picture you're going to see, I'm hitting the control key and pressing 2 on the number pad across the top. All right, and these are built into every plane in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And so what have the developers of this plane given us for views? This one lets us get a close view of our airspeed, close view of outside air temperature, which is important when you're doing these things, and other things that we might want to know here on the timepiece. Our altimeter, we have to set that before we get started, right, for our airport elevation and our QNH, etc. And you can see up here a closer view of the AOA. And you can see up here, this is elevator trim, right? Typically set for the neutral position. And sometimes they'll talk about different positions that you'll need. But that gives you an indicator of where it is. If it's a push button on your yoke like it is here, you have no idea. You push it up, push it up, push it up, and all of a sudden you see that needle. Oh, I've too much, right? You want to set that for 0 and take off or whatever it says in the manual, right? Here's your trims down here also, you guys. And here's your flaps down here too. All right, just know where to look. It's orientation, you guys. Know where to look for these things when you need it. Right now I've got flaps at 15 degrees first notch, right, for takeoff. All right, control 2 gives you mainly the same view I showed you before, but I actually moved down and gave you that straight on view of everything. But you know, control 2 gives you a general idea. So you can see you can do a quick scan of everything right here, or do your operations from control 2, right? And from here you can figure out what you want done. You can see your status up here, and then we can go from there. Not sure why that's in there. Somehow I missed that. Let's pull that out. Here we see cockpit orientation control 3. Control 3 moves over to the right side. Now this is a duplication of what's on the left, but let's say that you're using your controls. I use your controls to put 2 people in the same airplane, so either one of us can take control and fly. You have control, I have control, and away we go. All right, that's actually a lot of fun. You should try that too. Bring a friend with you, both of you fly the plane, and away you go. So one of you might want this view, and the other one has the normal view on the left. Control forward gets you overhead. This is where we check everything and get things rolling and get things starting up and do all of that. Checks, not that elaborate. We've seen some planes where this whole top panel is full. And here we see the emergency escape out the top also. Yep, you might need that. All right, control 5, zooming back now. Look, we still got another big, huge view here where we get to see all of this stuff. So, you know, the reason we do this, you guys, is just if you don't have a head tracker to look at these things when you need to, you might want to do control 5, arm, and drop the probes, and then you would typically map these levers to your home cockpit, and you pull those levers back to where they're supposed to be. So, you know, you go to this view, click, click, go back to normal view and fly the plane. Remember, it's always the first rule, fly the plane, right? Control 6 gets you down here to look at the comm radio setups, the flaps lever if you don't have it mapped to your home cockpit, and you can see down here some other things. But, you know, the point is that you want to set these when you want ATC and you want to talk to the ground too, typically. Control 7, when we come over here, what do we need to do over here? Here's your nav, FMS, all this other stuff. More things that we're going to do today, all right? We're not going over here today. And behind us, Control 8 and 9 are the behind the pilot and behind the co-pilot, all the circuit breakers. And they are labeled, they're just hard to read here, but you know, 26 volt bus, 5 volt bus, 28 volt bus, DC main bus 2, you know, so it's like there's a lot of organized electrics here. Over on the right side, Control +0, as we get over here, again, we don't have to use these things in this orientation session. You should explore everything and find out what things are and where they are. That's part of orientation, you guys, but I'm keeping this video as short as possible without doing a whole Tuesday night lesson. My Tuesday night lessons are 2.5 hours, so I'm trying to keep this down to a minimum. All right, take it for a spin. So cold and dark startup. We're going to, the first demo, I'm just going to spawn on the runway. After the demo of water operations, then I'll do a cold shutdown, and then I'll break into a cold and startup. Some people will want to skip to the cold and dark startup, but most people don't want that. Right? It just drags until we can finally get flying. So I'm giving you the stuff you really want first. And if you want, go to that further part of the video and go see cold start. Takeoff and cruise settings, try a water drop and bring it home for landing. Yes, let's do that. I don't know if you can see it, but this picture here has the probes not extended. All right, they're just flat here. There's no scoop underneath those probes. All right, I'll show you a few more diagrams as we go along. Now, the demonstration part, here, let's go and do that right now, everybody. And we'll do the Canadair CL-415 Water Bomber. And we'll do some water bombing runs, right? Bring it home for landing. And don't forget to smile. All right, let's go do that. So what I'll do right now, I'll just go here, show you this. This is a real photo of it. Look at this baby. Probes are down, and it's just touching down in the water right now. And this is actually a very high shutter speed, so it's actually stopped the propellers in the film of this. But this is actually picking up water. He's got his probes down. He's just starting to pick up water, and then he'll take off again. Kind of cool. This is a real picture, you guys. It comes from that manual I was showing you earlier, right? That was really cool. All right, let's go to demonstration, and let's see this thing in action. For our demonstration, we just want to pick the proper airplane, of course. And there are no liveries. We just take a look here. It's just the way it is. For now, anyway, we'll see what happens when 2024 comes along. I'm going to fly out of BC. This is where you'll see a lot of firefighter planes. Northern Ontario, Quebec, certainly anywhere in Canada where I'm from, you'll see this sort of thing as you get into, let's say, the BC interior. I'm going to go into Kelowna, BC. When you take a look at where this is, I'll show you in a second. And then any runway. And we're going to start on a runway for the first demonstration, just so we can get into the water pickup and water disbursement. Maybe we'll come back over here and just flood the golf course, you know, just for fun. But this is it, just to give you an idea where we are on the world map. Kelowna, BC is in the interior. Over here you see Vancouver Island, YVR, which is Vancouver Airport, and further into the interior, lots of times we've come in here for STOL landings and for push trips and fun stuff like that. And lots of great areas in here. Kamloops is another one, but you know, this is where we're going to go, Kelowna, BC, and we're going to fly out of there and spawn in right there. Flight conditions I've just left for high level clouds, and you can leave it as clear skies. Doesn't matter at this point. We're not doing multiplayer. We're not doing other people right now, but we're just going to go fly and go check it out. Pause, 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 pause. See how long that takes. All right, to start with, let's turn off my head tracker and we'll turn down some volume. Okay, that's better. That's loud. And of course it should be. And once you get your headset on, it should be better. Let's go to the outside. Back inside and bring that volume down. All right, all set to go. Now, the reason we do it on the runway is because then we can just get on with flying for now, which a lot of you want to do. Left, look out the door. Right, look out the door. There's our circuit breakers behind us. Let's do a quick check here. Control 1. Focus on this screen. Control 1, 2, 3, 4 overhead, 5, see everything, 6, see comm radios, etc., 7, and 8, 9 is the other, and 0. All right, so we're going to go mainly control 4 if you want to go overhead, control 5 to see everything. And what we can do is we can arm these as we go along. Here we just want to test that our levers work. I have 2 sets of levers. My 2 throttle levers. There's one. Second. And I also have reverse. If I don't have my emergency brake on, I should be able to go backwards. There, I've just turned off my emergency brake. And this will speed up even more as we go along. All right, be careful with that. What I like to do is just give it a bit of forward like that. That'll stop you. And put on the brake. There we go. I got flaps at 15. Let's go take a look. You can see by our indicator right here, our flaps are the first notch. Might be a little hard to read. The rest of our trims are okay. And over here it's showing us neutral for our elevator trim up in the far left there. And we also see that we're probably too low here. Let's just bring it back up a bit. Matter of fact, there's some... Oh, we had it fuel shut off. We had it set for fuel shut off. Right here, look at the bottom. Fuel shut off. There we go. All right. And we're just getting it going real quick here for you. And we're going to put these into the full position right here. Sorry, minimum for now. Get things running. We should see these get up to about 7. So let's just do a control 2. Sitting at 6. And now they're at 7 and they're climbing a little. Good. All right. Now we'll just go back to control 5. And we'll just take this up to our normal takeoff position. Full forward, just like any other propeller, variable propeller pitch plane. You keep it full forward for takeoff and landing. All right, here's our throttles. I'll bring those back now to idle, and you'll see this drop down to 7. Perfect. We're all set to go. All right, let's get rolling, and then we'll show you as we go along the operation. We're not far from water. Let's go take a look. Emergency brake off. Focus on the screen. Emergency brake off. Increase my power now. Stay over in the center line. Take a look as it goes along down the runway. Make sure you stay straight. Do you remember what liftoff was? Somewhere around here, our VR. Let's do a little pressure on the yoke. Up we go. I'm going to try and stay on that runway center line. And immediately, no more usable runway, up goes the gear. I see water right there. So let's get this ready to go. Can I pick up water there that soon? Why not? Let's just go like this. We still got 15 degrees. I'm going to slow it down a bit. Takes a while for the turbines to react. It doesn't look like a long lake, so I probably can't skim it very quickly. There's one further up that I'll take. Let's go up there. Meanwhile, let's just set the bar here. Let's give it a little more power. And what I want to do is bring the probes down. So remember, you push up to put the probes down and set this to auto, which is actually the on switch. It was pretty long, actually. It might have worked. But there is some water up ahead. We'll get to that. So now I could, in normal operation, bring the flaps up. You can see now I got clean flaps. Propellers are up at full. I'm only doing partial throttle right now. And that way my airspeed isn't too high. I mean, this thing's still very efficient. I'm going to be coming down for some water now. I want to take a look over here. Yeah, there's lots of forest right there. Okay. So we could just pick a spot and just do it. The first time is nothing to be accurate about. We just want to be able to drop and make sure that operation works. So maybe even closer to the water, we'll do that. All right. So we're coming in close to the water. I'm going to get down lower. Let's get back to a normal view here. Get down lower like this. I want to start skimming early because further on, I might have to pull up and get over the land. Probes are already down. I want to take a quick look at that. Probes are already down. You can see, oops, right there. Hard to see. There's the probes down right there. All right, they're ready to go. All right, let's see where we are. Slow down my speed. And once I get below the flap speed range, right about there, I can now put down 15 degrees of flap. Give it a bit more power. And you'll watch the AOA indicator. This is where I'm going to pick up water. It says ready over here, and the probes are down. All right, as I approach the water. Coming over the land here. Looks like we got enough room up ahead. We'll just see how much water we can pick up, even if it's not full. But we do want to level off when we get down here and pick up some water. So we go like this. Level off. Watch the AOA indicator. Certainly watch the ground. Come in a little slower than this. It'll slow down once I hit the water. And I want to just skim the water I got. I don't want to bounce. Right about there. Bouncing. So I'm bouncing. I'm going to pull back on the yoke. Don't want to bounce. All right, this is good for you to see this, you guys. I'm pretty much at idle on my... There, now I'm getting down to the speed I want for a landing. 5 degrees nose high. The AOA indicator should be in the white right here as I touch the water, and I shouldn't be bouncing after that. Right there, look at that. There's the speed. And there, I'm picking up water. Take a look over here now. Picking up water. I'm going to give it a bit more power because I got resistance. Picking up power. I'm picking up water. It's going to take 4,000 feet to do this. And I go outside. There it is, picking up. You can see the nose is a bit high, 5 degree high. There, I'm full. When you're full, probes up. Well, you should worry about taking off first. Probes are up. And we're going to take off now. Full speed ahead. Normal view. Picking up more speed. As I pick up more speed, I'll be able to pull away from the water. I'm up on the step. Just check forward a little. You can see the back isn't touching at all. And then I should be able to pull away from the water like that. Now I have some water. Now I'm going to go find a forest. I said it was back there to the left. Let's turn it this way. Probes are up now. Yeah, there's lots of forest to play with. All right, let's just go over here and do a drop. All right, to do the drop now, you don't want to turn on the arm until you're ready. But you'll notice there was a switch over here. You just zoom in. Well, let's use Control 5. Control 5. And you can see there's a switch right up here that will arm it. Arm it like that. And it says armed right there. All right, hold on a second. Let me make sure I'm not messing up my flight. It says armed right there. The probes are not down. We're ready to drop. And we're going to use the switch right here. Oh, where's our yoke? There it is. The switch right here Or we can use this one, of course. All right. So what we'll do is we'll just sort of go like this, and then I can see the switch when I need it. All right. Let's head over to the area. Let me just turn on my head tracker here and get a good view. Too close. That's a good view right there. All right. Wow, big mountain. All right. Well, not a big mountain, but there's a mountain. And we're going to water drop back here where there wasn't. All right, somewhere back this way. Let's have a look. I think it's after that road there, so let's go over that way. I could have just gone straight ahead. So typically you would land into wind to pick up your water and then turn around and go where you need to go. All right, I had it on full. Now I'm pulling back. And it's telling me that's a stick shaker. That's telling me that you're way too fast. All right, there's a spot right over here. Kind of crooked, but that's okay, as long as we don't touch the side there. Easy enough. Now, what's our speed? We'll just take a look here. A little too fast. I'm going to pull back some power. We've still got our 15 degrees, which is good for the approach. I'm going to do this strip right up here at the top of the hill beside the road. All right, we'll just try that. Let's get the outside in position for this. I want to be able to do it like that. No, maybe like this. This will let us see where we're dropping. There we go. All right, let's go back to here. The top of the road, right beside that little patch right there before the water. There we go. There's where we're going to drop. Are we ready? Let's go. And I'm going to take this off. I can see the button. There's the button. We get closer. Nice and low. I'm about 150 feet above. And I'm going to start dropping. Make sure I can clear it. There we go. Right now. Water doors are open. I'm dropping the water. Just like that. Beautiful. Close the doors and go get some more water. And I could turn around. If the wind's behind me, I would want to turn around and go get the wind. I'm going to give it more power now. You can hear the noise it makes. I'm going to take the flaps up. Flaps are clean now. Obviously the gear is up too. And I'm picking up more speed here as I turn around. And I'll go get some more water. Hey, there's more water over that way too. Might be a better way. This one was kind of limited. I saw ground coming up, or saw the land at the other end. Now this is just Flight Simulator 2020, so we don't have actual fires to put out, but it's great to practice. If you haven't landed a float plane before, then it's good practice to try it, you guys. Should be a view right out the window. There we go. We can see a little further ahead. All right, I'm going to pull it back a bit. You can see that my torque is coming back. Everything's still in the green. We're looking good. It does complain at this setting. There we go. I just turned it up a little so I don't get any noise. All right, I want to take my probes and put them down again. I think you can put them down while you're in the water, but let's just do it here. Down. It's already armed there. And it says on our panel, I think it was Control 4? Oh, 5. Control 5 gives us the panel. Yeah, Control 5. All right, back to normal. And now let's go down into this lake. Let's just see how much room we've got on both sides. Lots of lake there. Lots of lake there. Okay, probably not a lake. Could be a river. And this is the best place. A river is always the best place because it's continuous. A lake does have an edge and where you eventually see land, but typically rivers don't. So, all right, turn it around. As I'm getting down closer to the surface. Now you've seen it once already. You can skip over and go to the cold start or even the return to the airport. Typically when you get down to the water, you want to be level. I've got too much speed going on. If you're going to be doing a landing, you should give it more flap. And eventually, just like any landing, you should be giving it... Here, let's do a side view here. Let's do the other side where the sun isn't glaring us. Okay. And then let me just zoom in a little. Like that. Maybe that'll help us for our landing. Okay. Now it's complaining. I'm going to give it more power. And I'm going to give it full flap. I've got actual full flaps coming in. You see the flaps at the back are really down a lot. Give me a nice slow. And all I'm going to do here is do like a landing. All right, just to show you. And there I'm at 100. Pull my power back a little. And now I'm just sort of working my way down. Now, you would plan this ahead of time of how far you're going to go. Typically in your precautionary, you're looking for stuff along the way and you'll turn around and come back to the same area. But, whoa, some birds just went by. And now we're going to just pull it down and take a look at that outside view. Here we go. A little slower. Complaining, but that's okay. You can see me coming down gently. On water, got to be gentle. And as you get closer, a little bit of a flare. Look at that. A little bit of a flare. Touch it nice and gentle. Stay on the step. And as you touch, try not to bounce. You see that bounce? I'm just coming down too. It's hard to do from the side, but I'll still try. Lots of room up ahead. Let it down just a little. Don't let it bounce. Wow, that's hard to do, isn't it? Here we go. I can do it better from the cockpit. And now we want to pick up water. Oof. Power's at 0. Flaps are down. It shouldn't be bouncing like that. Relax the yoke. Let's see what happens. Alright, that's just a slow taxi though. Alright, it's not going to fill up like that. You can see over here. Well, it may, but it'll be very slow. Alright. So I'm going to speed up now and try to stay on a taxi, or a fast taxi as we say. That looks like normal. I should be able to fill up on that. Should be some bouncing because there are waves. There we go. We're filling up. We're good. Now again, you can worry about flying first and then worry about probes. And now I'm going to gently pull off. Still with full flaps. Gently pull off. Up one flap. Once it pulls off, now we just want to check forward a bit. Like that. You can see my elevator at the back is all the way up. And I'm just so heavy I can't pull off the lake. Oh, maybe I should try full power. Maybe I should try full power. Alright, now I should be able to pull off as the engines spool up further. See, I'm already on the step and then up I go. And I just kind of pulled up too fast there. Alright, let's turn around and try that again. This is second flight with this plane, but I'm going to have to get better at it. So let's come back around. And I only have 3 knots coming from the west, I think. So I'm not worried about where the wind is coming from. But typically you always land into wind, take off into wind. It gives you more lift. Alright, pulling back some power. Lots of lake ahead of us. Imagine the challenge for these guys when the lake was so rough. When high winds come up, you can get some pretty decent waves in here. Alright, I'm going to get down to the water as quickly as possible, which obviously increases the speed. Then I'll level off and let the speed bleed. Alright, so like that. Level off. Speed is now bleeding back. I'm at 110. I want to be lower than that. 105. And just going to touch the water. Like that. And if my probes were down, then that would work. And then now I'll cut power. If I were doing a landing. There we go. That's a proper landing right there. Alright. I'm going to take it up to 15. Increase my power slowly. Let it pick up some speed so I can actually fly. Right about there is 80. Remember 80? Around 80 is our stall speed. Now we're above stall speed. I should be able to offer my wings up on the step. And up we go. So practice that a few times. I mean, I've got water. I've got everything I need. I'm going to drop some water right over the runway and then land. How does that sound? If I remember, the runway was over that way somewhere. But we could just go over to something over here. I'm going to leave the 15 degrees flap in. I'm going to go drop. It is armed, it says over here. Yep. And where's our view to give us the yoke? I had a view here with the yoke. Let's go here. And maybe here. There we go. I can still see the yoke. All right. And let's go put out any fire that we want. Again, from the outside view. Oh, that's very disorienting, but let's try that view. And let's put it at the top of the hill here. Are we ready to hit the button? Coming over the land. There's the fire. Go. Isn't that cool? And pull out from there. You can actually see the water doors. See if I can do this again. We got full power. You can see the water doors right there. Look at that. Those are the water doors open right there. That's all the compartments open. And there's the actual scoop. So let's just watch my flying here. Let's just close the doors. Close pretty quickly. And let's lower the probes just so you can see them in action. And there's the probes lowered right there. Fascinating, isn't it? All right, let's take it in for a landing at an airport somewhere. Maybe over here. I knew we were in the area. Let's do a normal landing, you guys. So I'm going to pull back some power even now. Lots of fun. Things a lot of fun. There's the airport. All right. Well, kind of close for landing. So let's just turn it around and come in the other way. Someone else flying in the area. There's always someone flying in BC. Always, always, always. I'm going to do a left downwind for whatever runway that is. Get down to circuit height. Well, yeah, I said I would dose the golf course, but not going to happen. Nope. Too fast coming down. Let's just pull this back a bit with a bit of less power. When I get low enough and slow enough, I'm going to give it some flap. Put the head tracker on for a sec, you guys. There. All right. At 129, we can drop 15 degrees of flap. At 110, I think it is, we can drop the rest. So now that's what we're doing. Leveling up about 1,000 feet. I'm just using guidance here of my gut feeling. I hear that noise, I give it a little more power. That. Nice little indicators. I would look at my altimeter, 2,400 feet, and I'm not sure the elevation of the airport, but it looks about 1,000. That's fine. I'm going to trim up. We'll lose a bit more speed. And there's the actual runway. Kind of tight. We could just do a circle to land. Not really a circle to land. We can do a half moon to land. Circle to land is an IFR procedure, but yeah, we can sneak in on there. You ever notice there's always a golf course near an airport? If we had engine troubles and we can't make the airport, we could land on a fairway, you know? All right. Primer, master, mags on both. Do we see that circuit breakers are all in? Well, it's hard to tell behind us. There's a lot of circuit breakers. Switches are all set. I've got my landing light on. And gear down. Super duper. I have full flaps. Look over at the flap indicator. Flaps are full. We're good. Trim is neutral. All right. Turning base. Normally I'd call the tower. Coming in for landing. Down and dirty. There she is. And I'm probably too low now. 2,400 feet, I thought it said. Another airport. I mean, another golf course right near the airport. Nice. Speed is about 100. Yeah, I want to be about 80 to land, so let's just get it around. Yeah, it is kind of low, so I think the elevation here is probably higher. I didn't check when we took off, and I should have. Proper checks when you take off. Know your elevation of your airport. Do a quick check on our charts, but you know, I'll leave it for now. Full visual here. I'm going to show you the aerodynamic braking too when we come into land. Here we go, nice line up here. Coming in at a nice speed. Dropping my power a bit more. I'll be going into reverse once I land. Alright, there we go. Everything else is clean. I got flaps down, gear down, 3 in the green, yep. Last check on flaps, last check on gear. Like that. Looking good there. Hold her steady. Touchdown area up ahead where you see all the tread marks. Turn it up. A little bit of a flare. Just a touch. Enough to keep that front wheel off. I didn't touch the yeah, I see what's happening. I was already on the ground, so I can steer now. Okay, now I'm going to use reverse. Watch how fast. And just leave it on reverse. Ah! Nice. You still use braking, but if you're on very slippery, you're on grass, even if you're on gravel, sometimes that's not desirable. I'm just giving it a bit of forward thrust now, and then I can keep going. So that's the demonstration, you guys. Some people put flaps up when they're landing. If you've got a very short field, that might be advisable. Lets you stay down on the pavement, but you got normal runways, not really needed. And typically we'll put flaps up after we get over the whole short line. So we've done a lot here. We've done a couple of water bombings. We've done some landing on the water properly when I focus without bouncing around. And then a proper takeoff. We pull away from the surface. Now just get over the hold short line. Make sure the tail's off the hold short line. Like that. Nope, see the shadow still over it? I'm still not officially off the runway. Believe it or not, the requirement. There, I'm officially off the runway. And then now I'll put my flaps up all the way. Landing light off, taxi light on. Clean up all the normal things on the checklist. And here, I'll just show you from here without taxing anymore. I'm going to show you the shutdown. It's pretty simple. You can follow the checklist, but I'll just give you an idea what that's like. From this view here, I'm just going to take my condition levers all the way back to fuel off. Parking brake will be set now. I'm going to do that too. Boom. And then we'll have a look outside. And you can see them stopping now. Here we go. Off goes all the switches. And you would follow everything from the manual. And there we are, cold and dark. What a beauty. CL-415. You can contact me on our Discord server, flight training questions, or any questions you want. There's a ton of information here. A huge community comes in here and answers questions and asks other questions. Beginners all the way to CFIs come to this channel. You guys come and see us. We've been going for 4 years now, and we've got quite a collection of community members that join us there. I also have courses on Udemy. You'll see a link below for that. Fixed wing, helicopter, IFR, etc. I belong to the Society of Aviation and Flight Educators and EAA, of course. And I'm a captain with the Flight Simulation Association, you guys. Follow me on X, formerly Twitter, and that way you'll get notified of things that I'm doing as we go along, whether it be YouTube videos or whether it be Twitch sessions. All right. And there's the scan code. Thank you for being with me, and thanks for hanging in there. Leave comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'm Howard of Order and to Fly.